My mama always told me that if you don't get right, bad things are gonna happen to you. And you know what? I never did get right, did I, mama?
Lessons from the Screen.
So we're back with another episode of Lessons from the Screen, and we are just going to talk a little bit about this brand new book from a friend PC. And one of the things that we're going to keep in mind as we talk about this book is that this book is not a typical or traditional book. It's not a book that is informative in nature. It is not in the way that we typically think about information. We typically think about information from the standpoint of somebody delivering research or certain things that they've captured and presenting it to you and explaining it to you so that you can basically digest it into your own thoughts. This book isn't that. This book, well, before we get into what this book is, let me talk about how I got 2 copies, and let me just brag on y'all for a little bit, because this right here is limited edition. You can't even get this no more. You know what I'm saying? You can't. I'm one of like maybe 2 or 3 people in the whole planet that has this copy. So, you know, I wanted to stun on them a little bit. You know, y'all can hate. You can feel however you want to feel, but it is what it is. I got a very special copy. So yeah, how do you like them apples? Now, on to the copy that the rest of you will have. The rest of you peasants will have. You peasants will have this copy of the book, okay? What this book is this book is a look at the world through the year 2020, through the eyes of a social revolutionary. What this book actually is a collection of social media posts that Professor Carl Tone Jones made on his social media pages and various other outlets. I'm not sure if it's just social media or various other outlets, but series of posts that he made throughout the year 2020. Now, what he did interesting in this book is what you would typically think is somebody would make a post and then they would make a bunch of explanations about why they made the post, what they meant by the post, and things of that nature. In this sense, Professor Carl Tone Jones has created kind of a literary abstract piece, if you will. The post is very much open to interpretation. The all he literally did was take his post, frame them, and put the post on the page. Very bluntly, very directly, with no explanations whatsoever. And so a lot of people would be asking, well, that seems like a shortcut book. What would be the purpose of something like this? And the purpose of something like this is twofold, although we'll get into one specifically, one that I really enjoy. This book fosters critical thinking because it's not given to you. The posts are very much like the ink blots that you see in psychological exams, where they show you an ink block and everybody sees their own thing. It's very rare that we see that in literary terms, but we see it here, where he gives us posts and we're kind of left to figure out, well, what were we thinking? What date was this? What was going on? And me as a critical thinking instructor, I find stuff like this very useful in terms of digging into the minds of children, because some of these posts are very thought-provoking in terms of the world. Others of these posts don't really get that deep into you, depending on who you are. And some of these posts will have you staring at them for an extremely long time, just lost in thought. And I know from speaking to him directly, and we have interviews with him on other shows, namely the Freedom Train podcast series, where he talks specifically about wanting to foster critical thinking. And when I got the book, I'll admit, I was a little bit like, But then as I started thinking about the book and various conversations we had about the book, and then I also started reading the posts, I found myself wandering. And it was a good type of wandering, because a lot of these posts caused me to self-reflect on various things that happen throughout the year. So with that being said, it is a different kind of book. And I'm saying all that just to say that it is a different kind of book. It is not the type of informational book that you're going to find filled with research and filled with all these other points and facts and things of that nature. It's not that type of book. But what it is a book that you guys can use to create conversations or to talk about things, or maybe to jog your own memory about various things that happened in 2020, because 2020 was a very, very, very different type of year altogether. Not just talking about COVID, but also politically in America with the elections and all of the other things that happened. There was a lot that happened in 2020, and it's very easy to forget a lot of those things. And I felt like what this book did, it's very easy to forget a lot of the smaller things because of all of the big things that happened. And even looking at this book now, what I found is that thumbing through this book every once in a while causes me to relive some of those moments that I have forgotten about, or to think about some of those moments that I have forgotten about. So all in all, for what this book is as a critical thinking resource, I definitely think that this book is probably a 4 out of 5. It's hard to get much better in terms of a literary abstract, in terms of what this book actually is. If you don't understand what this book is, and you don't feel like it's necessary, or you don't like these types of books or anything of that nature, I just showed you kind of what was in it. Don't get this book. You're not gonna like it. You are not going to like it. So to me, this book is for a very specific audience. A very, very, very unique and niche audience is going to pick up this book and enjoy it. I plan on utilizing, and I've already started utilizing certain things in this book in my instructional courses teaching critical thinking, because I love the fact that there's nothing attached. It's just, what do you think about this? Why do you think something like this would be said? What do you think was happening at that time period? What do you think this person was feeling? How do you think this person was maneuvering? How do you feel? Can you relate? All of these questions are questions that can be asked and answered in a learning type setting involving critical thinking when you're looking at, or when you have a tool like this. And again, what makes it unique is that you really don't see stuff like this that often. You know, everybody feels pigeonholed into they have to make certain types of content. And in that, I think this is another example of somebody looking at what was out there, looking at what they wanted to do, and being very uncompromising in what's out there versus what they wanted to do, and doing what they wanted to do. That being said, it is what it is. So if you want to go pick this book up, you can find it at Amazon. Or you can also hook up Professor Carlton Jones. Links will be in the description. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Lessons from the Screen.
Lessons from the Screen.